Hey fellow believers, I'm Dr. Medrano. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe. And now it's time to pick up your Bible. All right, so it's me, Dr. Medrano. I'm actually here in the flesh, so I wanted to try something different, which is to present to you all in person, to give these messages, do these Bible studies in person like this. I don't know. I guess I was hesitant before because I didn't want to put myself on camera, not because I'm vain, or it's just that I was telling some of my friends yesterday, no, Friday, 2 days ago. I was telling some of my friends 2 days ago that I felt like I didn't want to be judging myself and then think, oh no, I don't like the way I look, or I don't like what I'm wearing, or the way that I'm sitting, or whatever it might be. And then that be the reason and the only reason why I don't post a video, or why I don't end up, seeing it through whatever video I'm working on at the moment. But I also just kept thinking this morning, but also it makes such a huge difference when you see the person. I mean, I'm a communications teacher, I teach public speaking, and I love it when a student's voice, when they're presenting to me, when their voice matches their physical energy, and it that together is a powerful force that can draw you in and that can magnetize you, and and just make you feel okay, wow, I really want to listen, or whatever it might be. And so I know that my students, I'm not like the number one most popular teacher or anything like that, but I know that my students really enjoy my class because I think I come off really excited a lot of the time, and it's because I am excited. I love teaching. I love my job. I love being able to share what I know and hopefully share the mistakes I've made along the way so that they don't make those same mistakes. And so, yeah, basically, I just really wanted to give this a shot. Let me see if, maybe God made me a public speaking teacher so that I could come on here and present this message to you all in person. That's um, something that I wanted to try. So I'm going to try it out for a couple videos. Heck no, it's so windy, you all. Wow. You guys, literally all my notes are like, oh my gosh. One of my notes just flew away. It's actually a picture of King Solomon's temple that I had in my Bible, I think. It's all right, I'll just reprint it. It's so windy, and that's because I literally prayed, Holy Spirit, please take away this wind so that I can focus on my Bible study. Oh my gosh, there's vultures literally flying right above me right now. There's two of them. That means there's something dead around here. That's what my mom always tells me. Anyways, today we're going to be reading. I don't care. I do not care if it's windy. I'm just going to make this happen, even if it's a hot mess. So today we're going to be reading out of the book of Ruth, which I'm super excited about because Ruth is amazing. Like, there's only two books in the Bible that are written after women, or not written after women, that are named for women. Yeah, written after women that are named after a woman, like a female character. And Ruth is one of them. So, yeah, for sure. I want to talk about Ruth. She's amazing. Actually, my friend Julie, shout out Julie if she ever watches these videos. Julie, she is my best friend, and she's like my work best friend, and then she's also my IRL best friend in real life. She's my real life best friend too. And we have a weird story with each other, but we got it together. Anyways, it was my fault, not hers. Anyways, so she was telling me that she was learning about Esther, like I want to say almost like a month ago. She was learning about Esther, and she's like, "How come you've never told me about Esther?" And I was just like, "Dude, like Esther's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like Esther's cool. Like she is a rock star, and she is. She's very like female empowerment, but in a biblical way, not like in that like new culture, I hate men kind of way. She's very empowering for women. But I was telling her, dude, you should read Ruth. Like Ruth is like where it's at. Like Ruth is like it's like low key Pride and Prejudice vibes. It's so sweet. And it takes place during like the darkest time, for the Israelites. I mean, not the darkest time. They've had some really dark times. Pobrecitos. Anyways, but no, it takes place during a pretty dark time. So, anyways, I want to give you a little bit of backstory on Ruth, all right? And kind of explain what's going on, who's going on, like who Ruth is. Ruth actually doesn't even enter into the story until 4 verses in. I'm surprised this book isn't named Naomi. I get why it's named Ruth. Like it's about Ruth. Ruth is the main character here. Don't get me wrong. But Naomi is also really important. And she's like straight away, she comes out right away. And, anyways, but also she's not the best example for some of this book. So, all right. So let's get some backstory of what's going on in Ruth. Ruth was written, some believe, I don't know for sure, but some people believe that Ruth was written by Samuel. There's a lot of evidence, though, that indicates that Ruth was written after Samuel had already died. So I don't know. The text itself says nothing of the author, but who the heck cares? Whoever wrote the story is a really great storyteller. I'm telling you, Pride and Prejudice right here. It's so sweet. It has been called the greatest short story. No, it has been called the most beautiful short story ever written by me. I said that. I said it right now, actually. Anyways, even though the events and Ruth occurred during the Judges period, which is a very dark time in Israel's history, this was pre divided kingdom, right? Eventually they split. These, you know, I don't want to say they were dumb, but they were pretty dumb. But, anyways, before they split, right, one of their, like, they had monarch kings, but before the monarch kings, they only had three. They had King Saul, who was terrible. Then they had King David, who was really good. And then they had King Solomon, who was also like pretty good. Of course, King David and King Solomon weren't perfect, right? King Solomon was David's son. But of course, neither of them were perfect. But compared to King Saul, they were amazing. All right. And King Solomon, like, oh, he made some really like bad choices, but he still did some really good stuff also. But oh my gosh, was he like, he was kind of a hot mess. It's because you got to be careful who you get into relationships with, you all. That's my King Solomon advice right there. Anyways, where was I? Oh, yeah. This was before the divided kingdom, before the kings, right? We only got three of them, and then the kingdom split into two after King Solomon's death. So before all of that, we had the Judges period. Okay. The Judges period was essentially this dark time in Israel's history, like I've already said 500 times. Come on, Crystal, get it together. It was this dark time in Israel's history where essentially Israel was living through this horrible, stupid cycle that they could not get themselves out of. Here was the cycle. And I explained this in another video, but I'm just going to do it really quick because it's important. They essentially would sin, all of Israel collectively together, I guess. They would sin, right? They would make all these horrible, stupid, dumb decisions, get into idolatry, worship other gods. You can imagine. And then after that, they would start to get oppressed by their enemies. And then they would cry out to God. They'd be like, God, please save us, right? And then, ooh, ooh, there's like sun hitting me. Okay, anyways. So they cry out to God, 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 please save us. And then God would say, okay, let me send someone to help you guys, you know, get back to me. So God would send a judge. This is why it's called the Judges period, a judge. But it wasn't like a courtroom judge, like with a gavel and stuff, right? Nothing like that. Okay. It was more of a, like a deliverer, like someone to lead them, basically, to lead the people back into intimacy and communion with God. And it would work, like, because he would send them. God would send, these are God appointed judges, deliverers, right? So it would work for a certain amount of time. But then I don't know if you guys can hear the birds. Probably not. It's too bad. There's literally birds around me. I don't even have to add sound effects to this video, but I probably will because you probably can't hear them on this mic. Anyways, God would send the deliverer, it would work, but then, like with all people in life, the deliverer would die eventually. Obviously, that's the circle of life. Shout out Lion King. And then they would just fall back into sin. You know, they just, oh, like he's dead, dang it, like let's try and do it ourselves. It's not working, okay, let's just go back to the clubs. Like they would just go right back into their old ways, and so then the whole cycle kept repeating like a whole bunch of times, right? This is the dark time that the book of Ruth is taking place during. It's a hot mess, all right? And so Ruth, though, stands apart because Ruth is nothing like this dark time. Like, you would not know from reading this book that they were in that horrible cycle because it's so sweet. You all, this story is so sweet. Literally, Pride and Prejudice. I don't remember what the guy's name is. Mr. Something, right? Obviously, his name's Mr. Something. But the lead character, I don't know. If you guys know, write it in the comments. I don't remember. But Mr. Something is the guy. My gosh, I can't even remember the girl's name now. Pride and Prejudice, Crystal, one of your favorite movies. Anyways, doesn't matter. Boaz and Ruth are the Pride and Prejudice couple of our story, and it's so beautiful. All right. So again, during this time, very dark. People were just really screwing up, but we're gonna see the love story of King David's great grandparents. That's right, King David's great grandparents, Boaz and Ruth. This is their love story. So sweet. Okay, so we're gonna start off and just get some background on Ruth and Naomi out of chapter 1. We're basically going to get into kind of like just get a little bit of context as to what's going on in their lives. It's kind of sad, actually. So I don't know if you have tissues near you, but maybe you should get some. Anyway, so we're reading Book of Ruth, chapter 1. All right. And we're going to start with verse 1. It says, "In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. And a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab." Let's just stop there. I know, crazy, right? So I already told you it's taking place during the time of Judges. It's literally in the verse. In the days when the judges ruled, during the time of the judges, right? There was a famine in the land. And so this man, we don't know his name yet. They're going to give it to us in the next verse. But there was a famine in the land, and so this man decided to uproot his family. So the famine must have been pretty severe for him to uproot his whole family, right? And his family included his wife and 2 sons. Let's keep going. Verse 2. The man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon, Mahlon. I think it's Mahlon. Mahlon. I'm literally like on camera. It's okay. Anyways, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Kilion. Kilion. Okay, that makes more sense. And the name, let's start again. Rewind, like I tell my students. Let's rewind. Verse 2. The man's name was Elimelech, his wife's name Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Kilion. Got it. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah. Well, Bethlehem is like San Benito, Texas, Judah, right? Like Bethlehem, Judah. So he's giving the city and the state, basically. It's not though. It's more like country, and it's city and nation. Ugh, you guys don't judge me. Anyways, and they went to Moab and lived there. Okay. So now we have more information. Now we know a little bit more. Like we have names for like his family members, right? But again, they went to Moab and lived there, which Moab was not the place to live. So this tells you again that the famine must have been very severe for them to say, hey, we got to get out of here. All right. Verse 3. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. What the heck? Literally, we just got introduced to this guy and now he's dead. Let's keep going. And she was left with her two sons. Okay, that's good. That's good news. I'm not saying like, oh, forget about the husband. You don't need him. At least you got your sons. Although a lot of moms would be like, you know, low key, like, hey, at least I got my two sons, right? But no, she's grieving her husband. That's not why it says that. Like, it's saying, I'm saying it more like it's important because back then a woman's value was strictly based on the ability for her to be claimed by a man. If you didn't have a husband, if you weren't married, if you didn't have children, sons specifically to claim you, you basically had no value as a woman. And so that's why after it's always so weird to people, but that's why it's because things were different, you all. You cannot read the Bible through your modern day eyes. That's not going to make sense to you. You need to appreciate and respect the time and the culture. They lived in a different time and culture. And we need to understand that. Does that mean that everything that is in the Bible is, oh, God saying, oh, yes, I condone this, I allow this, somebody raped somebody else? Yes. No, the Bible is it's documentation. It's a record of what happened so that we can learn from the mistakes and also, model after the good behaviors that we see. But it doesn't mean that it's okay just because it's in the Bible. Oh, someone raped somebody. I don't know. I heard a teacher saying that the other day because she was getting all upset about how the 10 commandments were going to be required. This was I mean, right now, currently, I'm in March 1st of 2026 when I record this. But this was, I want to say, at the beginning of the school year. We were in a teacher's meeting and a teacher got really upset and she said, why would they allow that trash? You know? And no, I think this was even last year actually. She's like, why would they allow that trash to be put in our classrooms? And she said, I don't get it. She said, the Bible isn't even good. Like, have you guys read the Bible? And I heard her, and then she got quieter. I think she got like scared. She should be, but not of us. She should be scared of judgment from God. But, anyways, then I heard her more quietly tell her like friend group, her department. It's a history teacher. Anyways, then I told her, I heard her tell her department at her table, did you all know that in the Bible it literally says that these girls got their father drunk and then, basically raped him, like forced him to have sex with them, like because he was drunk, so he didn't know like what he was doing. And she said that's the kind of trash that they want us teaching our kids. And I was thinking to myself, that can't be correct. This wasn't a year ago. What am I saying? This was like 2 years ago because this is what pissed me off enough to think, Crystal, you should have said something, but you cannot because you don't even know what story she's talking about. I literally didn't know what she was talking about. Now I do. I don't remember where it is, but I think it's in Genesis. But God doesn't approve. He doesn't give his stamp of approval on every single action of every single person in the Bible. He gives his stamp of approval on us reading and gaining insight and knowledge from these characters in the Bible, whether it's lessons learned so that we avoid them in the future or things that we gravitate towards doing, habits that, like Ruth, like what we're going to see from Ruth. Ruth is a strong female role model. I mean, really strong. Anyways, I got sidetracked. Let's keep going. I was on verse 4. They married Moabite women. So we found out that Naomi's husband died. That's horrible, right? She's grieving her husband. It says she's left with her two sons. Okay, that's good for her as a woman. She needs two sons to claim her during that time. Verse 4, those two sons, they married Moabite women. So women from there, from Moab, from the country of Moab, from there, right? And so one of them was named Orpah. That's Oprah misspelled. Actually, Oprah's mother named her after this character, but misspelled it, I believe, on the birth certificate. And so then she's Oprah, right, the famous talk show host, but she was meant to be named after Orpah from the Bible. Anyways, so one of the women was named Orpah, the other was named Ruth. Uh, the title of our book today. After they had lived there for about 10 years, So they had about 10 years together as a family, just minus the husband, right? The husband has died. Verse 5. After having lived there about 10 years, verse 5, both Milan and Kilion also died. And Naomi was left without her two sons and her husband. Now this is important, and it's making it clear that this is important because now she has no one to claim her. Oh my gosh, the vulture is literally right in front of me. Honestly, I don't care what anyone says. I love vultures. If that's even what it is. My mom says that they're vultures. I don't think they are. Even my brother has said that they're vultures. I don't think it's a vulture though. Or if it is a vulture, I condemn the negative stereotypes of like vultures being ugly because I think these birds are incredibly beautiful. Like I love, love, love those birds. Anyways, okay, let's keep going. We're on verse 6. When she heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, Naomi and her daughters in law prepared to return home from there. So, in other words, okay, this is all making so much sense to me. They originally, the family had been uprooted by Elimelech, right? The head of the household. And he had uprooted his family and taken them to the country of Moab because there was a severe famine going on. But now a lot of time has passed. Elimelech is dead. Sadly, her two sons have died. And it says that at least 10 years have passed. And so now at this time, they're hearing in verse 6, it says, she heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people back, right? Back in Bethlehem. And so Naomi and her daughter-in-law, sorry, are like, "Hey, we should go back home," right? Like she's telling them cuz remember it's not their home. Sorry, it's not their home. It's their home is where they are. That's how they got married to her sons is the sons met them there when they moved, right? They met them, they're Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah, right? But Naomi isn't from Moab. She is from Bethlehem, from Judah, right? And so she's saying, "Hey, I just found out that back in my home place in Bethlehem where I'm from that everything's okay again, that God has been providing food for his people. So I'm thinking about going back," right? And it says verse 7, with her two daughters in law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. So you get the impression, okay, I guess they're following her, right? So hearing that God had helped the people of Judah, Naomi decided to go back home, right? She's distraught. She's like, you know what? Like, I. I'm going back with less than I came with, obviously, like familial wise. And so she's kind of like, man, like, I'm just going to go back. You guys want to come? You can come with me. Right. At first, it seems like they're all on the same page, like they're all going to go together. Ruth and Esther, sorry. Ruth and Orpah are seem like they're loyal to her, to Naomi, even though she has nothing to offer them. Remember, they're still fairly young. Like they can, maybe consider even getting married again. But Naomi is out of that place in her life. Like she's just at this point, she's dependent on things that she doesn't have in her space. So let's keep reading. Verse 7. With her two daughter-in-laws, she left the place where she had been living. This is where we had left off, and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Verse 8. Then Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Go back." Okay, this is interesting. So at first it seemed like she was fine with them coming with her, but now on the road, I don't know, in a big dramatic thing, she's like, "Hey, wait, wait, wait. Like, where do you think you're going? You need to go back. Go back," it says, "each of you to your mother's home." That's fair. She's probably thinking the same thing I just said. Like, you guys are still young. You can still get married. Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show kindness to you as you have shown to your dead and to me. Verse 9, may the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband. Yeah. So she's still thinking, no, you can still be okay. Like you should just go back home. Let's keep going. Then she kissed them and they wept aloud. So this is an emotional goodbye, it seems like. And they said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." So check this out, verses 8 through 10. It started on that road trip back to Bethlehem. It started with Naomi seemingly wanting them to go back with her, right? But now she has told them both, hey, you know what? This isn't for you. You shouldn't come back with me. It's in your best interest that you go back to Moab, go back to your own house where you grew up, your mother's home. And, you know, I hope that God blesses you with another husband, with new husbands, because both of their husbands just died. They only had maybe, you know, 10, 11 years with those husbands. And so, they still have a lot of life that they could give to a new husband, right? So she's telling them no, both, and she's telling them like no, like you should go back home. But both girls, look, again, she kissed them and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." So both girls are basically refusing to leave her side, which, I mean, I think honestly is a testament to a great mother-in-law. Like, I feel really fortunate. I've grown up hearing a lot of mother-in-law stories, and hey, don't put that in the comments. Like, don't go putting your mother-in-law on blast. My relationship with my mother-in-law is so, honestly, like, there's a language barrier between us because even though I am Mexican, I sadly do not speak Spanish very well. And she's actually, my mother-in-law is the person that I probably understand the best. And so growing up, because I've been a part of my husband's life, I've been around her and in her life for, oh my gosh, 20 years already. And so yeah, when I first met her, it was really tough for us to kind of see eye to eye on things because we just really couldn't communicate very well with each other. But as I got older and I was able to maybe hone in a little bit better, because it's not like I don't speak any Spanish, but all she speaks is, she really is like a primarily Spanish speaking person. She actually speaks and understands English, I think, better than I speak and understand Spanish, I would say. And she'd probably disagree with me on that, but it's true. But it's just, I get so embarrassed, honestly, speaking Spanish in front of people. But with her, I feel like I understand her okay. Like, I can, for the most part. And I think it's just because I've gotten used to her tone, her style, her dialect. Like, I've just gotten used to her. And also, she's my husband's mother, so I want to understand her a lot of the time. And so, anyways, or all the time, not a lot of the time, all the time. But I've always felt protected by her, honestly. And she's a praying woman. She's a real praying woman. I know a lot of women think that they're praying women because they like pray. She, I mean, she'll pray the devil away, that woman. She's a prayer warrior. And so I I can relate to Ruth. I could see this. I'm actually coming on 10 years with my husband in our marriage. And although we have, before that, we have 10 years together as a relationship. We were together, we grew up together for 10 years before we got married. So 20 years altogether, really. But um, I could see myself in this situation also wanting to stay with Naomi if I had been in this situation with her. I would see myself wanting to be loyal to Naomi, to my mother-in-law. Because there's something special about a praying mother, about a praying mother-in-law. There's something special about that. Verse 11. So they're saying, no, we're gonna come with you, girl. Like, don't worry, we got your back, right? So let's keep going. Verse 11. But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons?" Uh-oh, this is sounding sad. Is it selfless or is it self-pity? Let's see. "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons?" who could become your husbands. Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you. That sounds like self-pity. It is more bitter for me than for you because the Lord's hand has gone out against me. There's truth in self-pity. There always is, right? But that doesn't mean that you should hold on to that truth. That doesn't mean that you should, and I don't even say truth because truth to me is spiritual. This is not truth. I'm going to say there's facts, like it's factual. She's speaking a fact, right? The fact is that even if she were to find someone as soon as she got back to Bethlehem and get remarried and pop out another child and then wait until that son grew up, like what are they going to wait? She's saying no, you're not going to wait, that's crazy. And so she's saying because of this it's more bitter for me than for you because you guys do still have the ability to go and find new husbands and still have children. And I, for me, it's this is looking like a hard no, right? Because the Lord's hand has gone out against me. Now that's not even self-pity, that is almost more of a self curse right there. That's the kind of language that you need to be very careful with speaking out, right? Because you're saying the Lord's hand has gone out against me. We should not be saying stuff like that. We should, even if it looks and sounds that way in the natural, you should always be declaring that the Lord's hand is covering you, is protecting you, is giving to you, is providing for you. You should always be declaring, the best possible things. What are in God's word? God's word doesn't say, "Oh, the Lord's hand is against you," unless you are blatantly against God. Then yeah, his hand's going to be against you, right? So it's really important that we watch what we say. Let's keep going. Verse 14. At this, they wept again. Oof. All these women just crying on the road. It's pretty funny. Then Orpah kissed her mother in law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Ruth clung to her. So, look, said Naomi, your sister in law is going back. So I imagine I see a scene of them like on the road, right? And they're outside of the car having this conversation, and maybe they're like they just called like an Uber, like no, not maybe Naomi even had to call for them because they're not listening, right? So she called an Uber and she's like, no, you guys need to go back, I called an Uber for you so you can go back to Moab or whatever. And so they're there on the side of the road just like talking and crying. And then Ruth says again, like, no, she hasn't said it yet, sorry, that's verse 16. In verse 14 they're crying more, and Orpah's like, you know what, okay, the Uber gets there and Orpah gets in. She kisses her mother-in-law goodbye, but she gets into the Uber. But Ruth clings on. She starts holding Naomi and clinging on to her and does not get into the Uber. And then Naomi says, look, your sister-in-law is going, she's waiting for you in the Uber. You guys need to go back to your people, go back. But then, and look, this is important. She says, go back to your people and to your gods, right? Because remember, the Moabites, and this is why I said at the very beginning, the Moabites are not, that's not a good place to be. The Moab country is not a good place to be. They worshiped other gods, they didn't worship the one true God, right? That's why Naomi's family being there sticks out to Ruth and to Orpah, because it's like, whoa, what is this? Who is this Hebrew God? I want to learn about him. And they have, because they've been together for 10 years now as a family, right? So Ruth says, verse 16, but Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Oh my gosh, here we go. This is so good, you guys. This is what Ruth tells Naomi on the side of the road. Remember, the Uber's still waiting there for Ruth to get in, and Orpah's already in there. She already put her luggage in the back, right? I'm setting the scene for you. Ruth tells Naomi, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me. You guys, wow. Like I'd like to think that I would stay with my mother-in-law, but I don't know if I'd say all that. That's a lot. That is, loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. Like that's loyalty to me, like for real loyalty. I don't know a lot of people that would do that. All right. So here, after Naomi insisted that they have a better chance of finding new husbands and building families in their homeland, Orpah decides to leave. However, Ruth stays and shows unwavering loyalty. And this is quite possibly this line that Ruth says to Naomi: where you go, I go, where you stay, I'll stay. Your people are my people, your God, my God. If anything but death separates us, may God deal with me ever so severely. I mean, that's got to be one of the most beautiful verses, beautiful lines in the entire Bible, representing a deep sense of faith and commitment to another person. You know, that I mean, any woman should challenge herself to abide by this with her husband, with her children, with her family, with her God. Like that should be our commitment to God first and foremost. Forget everyone else. Push them down the list a little bit in priorities. No, your first priority should be wherever you go, God, I'll go. Wherever you stay, I'll stay. Your people are my people. You are my God. Where you die, I die. He's not going to die, right? That's the good part, right? I want to be buried wherever you are. May you deal with me if anything but death separates us. Yeah, I mean, that's a good line. That seems like a romance line actually, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful that it's said between a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law. All right, and then verse 18, when Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped. She stopped urging her to go back home. Okay, so let's keep going. We're going to start on verse 19, is where we left off. So the two women went on until they came to Bethlehem, right? And then it says, when they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. Hmm. And the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" Verse 20. "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter." 21. "I went away full, like satisfied, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." Wow. So here we see, I mean, what a way to make an entrance like back into your hometown. After you usually when you like go back home, like you graduate from high school, a lot of people leave and go get their college degrees and find success. And then when you come back home, you want to give off like the best impression, so you'll come like dressed all to the nines, and your hair just did, your makeup just did, your nails just did. Like you'll come in like real strong, like looking your best whenever you come down for a visit. Naomi's legit the opposite. She comes in and she's like, "You guys, my name's not Naomi anymore. It's Mara, because my life is horrible. God has brought all this misfortune upon me." I mean, wow. They return to Bethlehem, but Naomi immediately fixates on her depressive state. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to grieve or be sad or go through seasons in life. I mean, I better than anyone know that, sadness can come, obviously, but it's a choice to stay there, right? Even if it's an hourly choice, a daily choice, when you're going through heartache, when you're going through depression, when you're struggling with anxiety, like I have so much, I have to sometimes remind myself every 20 or 30 minutes, like, hey, but Crystal, you got it really good. You need to chillax. Like, it's really good here. Look at all the good things that you have. Look at all the good people around you. Look at all the love that God has blessed you with. It's important that you make that decision and that you remind yourself of the blessings of the fortune that God has provided for you in abundance, even something as simple. And I say this to my FCA students all the time. I always say this in my prayers. Thank you so much, God, for allowing us to be born in this country. I mean, a lot of people take that for granted. I can't even believe it, especially my students. In our second period, because we have 5 periods in my campus, right? I'm at a high school campus that I teach at. In my second period, it's like our skinny period because it's supposed to be all year long. And we do announcements every day, usually, unless there's testing or something weird going on. We do announcements during that second period at the beginning of the class. And the initiation of those announcements is to say the Pledge of Allegiance to both the USA, right? The American flag, and then also the state flag, which for us is Texas, right? And then after that, we have a moment of silence, which, I mean, I don't know if the students even know this, but that's a designated time for you to pray, right? They don't lead us in prayer, which, trust me, as the FCA sponsor, I've asked several times, like, can we lead the school in prayer during that time? But they always say no, because of course, people are more afraid of parents, and they're more concerned with people pleasing than they are with God pleasing. So, and it's, I mean, admin has a job to do, the school board has a job to do. Like, I get it, but also, like, wouldn't you rather these kids be exposed to the Bible more than be exposed to Euphoria or Bad Bunny? I mean, just think about it. It's common sense, you all. Anyways, it always irks me that the the students don't even say the pledge. They don't even put their hand over their heart sometimes. I mean, I will go out of my way. You should see me. I'm so, mostly because, I mean, obviously I'm grateful to live in this country and I want to pledge my allegiance, right? But also because I want to, like, it's like my way of being vengeful. Like, I'm going to do it even harder and like louder. And so I'm there like, I pledge of allegiance to the flag of, like, really just, like trying to get under their skin, which I think I do. Actually, in that second period, I get so frustrated because they chisme. That means gossip in Spanish. They chisme all the time. They gossip all the time, and then I don't like hearing them talk, so I separated all of them. And now I do this thing where I put on like sermons or worship music loud so they can hear, to drown them out, because I'm so sick and tired of hearing their like trash. Like, it literally, I've had to tell them before, like, please stop talking. I feel like I'm getting dumber. Like, I don't want to hear bad words in my classroom. I don't want to hear, you know, but it's hard. We need more support in the classrooms. We need people that will come in authority, and I'm not talking about teachers. I'm talking about positions above teachers. We need people in authoritative positions that can come in and that can see what the classroom experience really is like. Because I'll be really honest with you, it's really hard. It's really hard to be with students nonstop all day and to hear and see the things that we do. It's shocking to me that the only thing I can imagine is your parents must not know. They must not know you, because I'm hearing you, I'm watching you, I see what you're looking at, I hear what you're saying, and I can't imagine a parent like knowing all of these things about you and being okay with it. Like, I just can't. I would encourage you all, if you have children, I don't, but if you have children, I would encourage you to really get to know your children as people, not just as kids, because kids lie, but people people will be themselves if they have the opportunity to, if they feel the space to, and that way you can impart wisdom into them starting as early as possible and teaching them the ways of God, right? So anyways, that's besides the point. There's always a reason to be grateful and blessed, is what I was trying to say. And then I went off on a tangent about something so sad. Hilarious. Anyways, that's so Crystal. Verse 22. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabites, her daughter in law. Arriving in Bethlehem, as the barley harvest was beginning. I wonder if there's anything. Let me check my notes really quick. Let me see what I have here. I'm going to read you some of the notes that I have written down. These are my notes. Naomi, so going to like 20 through 21 when she's all sad, right? And she's telling like her old friends, her old high school friends, like, oh, look, I'm back, but hey, like, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, because like the Lord has not done me any good recently. Naomi had experienced severe hardships similar to Job. Yeah, it is actually. Now that you think about it, it's very similar to Job. She had left her hometown married and with two sons and returned a widow and without a penny or credit to her name and without any children. I mean, that's worst case scenario for a lot of women out there probably, I'd imagine. The name change expressed her bitterness and unfortunately her loss of faith in God's sovereign plan over her life. So, when you face bitter times, God welcomes your honest prayers. This is important because I think a lot of times we think that we are not ever supposed to be real with God. Like, oh, let's just pretend like everything's okay. No, God welcomes your honest prayers. I mean, he knows. He knows what's in your heart regardless. You know, but be careful not to overlook the love, strength, and resources that God has put right in front of your face. I was actually talking to my students, not even my FCA. Doing a, I was modeling a speech for them, and as an excuse to like minister to them, my speech that I modeled for them, I told them because they know that I'm a believer, that I go to church, that I love reading the Bible, especially that they know that I love studying the Bible. I have it with me at work all the time. And so I had to model a speech for them. And um, I used the excuse like, oh, the thing that's easiest for me to talk about is the Bible because, I know I read it a lot. Like I know a lot about it. I do. I've learned a lot. There's also a lot I don't know. Don't get me wrong. Hey, if you ever like want to correct me in comments, like something that I don't, let me know. I'm nothing if not a student. Whoa, something just flew in my eye. Okay, it's gone. I'm nothing if not a student. Like I love learning, you all. Like people that know me know that first and foremost. I love learning. All right. But anyways, I used it as an excuse. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do a speech like I'm going to do a sermon for them as my speech demonstration. And it was a 5 to 7 minute speech and I did the whole thing. I demonstrated like everything that I was expecting for them. Like this is how you get 100. Like you're going to do it just like this basically. This is what I'm looking for. And I did a speech out of the book of Haggai, and in that I was talking to them about the importance of looking at what's right in front of you, appreciating what's right in front of you, and not comparing to the past. I think a lot of people get stuck sometimes in a place where they're like, oh, well, look what I had back then. Look at, how things were back then. But then we failed to recognize, and I was telling this to the students, I was showing them actually, I said, when I'm facing this way, I don't like my side profile, but I'm going to give it to you right now. When I'm facing this way towards the past, I cannot simultaneously be facing this way. There's just no way. It's not possible. I'm going to have to choose. And when I'm facing this way and looking at the past, then that's where my focus is. That's the only direction I can go in actually. Oof, that's powerful. I did not say that in class actually. But I'm telling you, whatever direction you're facing in, whatever direction you're facing in is the only direction that you could be headed in. So if you're facing the past, you all preach. That's the Holy Spirit right now talking through me. If you're facing the past, that is the only direction you can head in. That's why you need to do a 180, I was telling them, and you need to head forward so that you can keep your eyes focused on the present and what God has for you right now. What does God have? What has God given you right now? What's in front of you? And those are the things that you should be proclaiming. Those are the things you should be giving thanksgiving for, showing gratitude for, but you can't do that if you're too busy focusing on the past. And I think that was Naomi's problem here. Naomi is center stage in the story right now, right? It's going to shift. We're going to get a shift of the main character. If you think about it, though, every event so far in this narrative has related back to Naomi, her husband's and son's death, her daughters in law, and their choices either to go back home or to return to Bethlehem with her in Ruth's case, almost without peer in scripture, like almost with no comparison in scripture as far as other characters. This story views God through the eyes of a woman, which back then, remember, we've already said this, back then, women were in a very vulnerable, like in the most vulnerable position. Like just being a woman was just a very vulnerable position to be in. I would argue that it still is. But, anyways, I'm sure the male population could argue the same thing, that it's difficult to be males. And I agree. It's difficult to be both, honestly. It's difficult to be, okay? Naomi has been compared to a female Job, like I was saying earlier. Like Job, she lost everything. She lost her home, her husband, sons. Actually, Job didn't lose his wife, but he might as well have. His wife was terrible, not supportive of him. And even more than Job did, she lost her livelihood, like all chances at being able to support herself. Because a woman without a man, like I said, to claim her was considered Israel's like lowest, like at the bottom of the totem pole. She cried out in her grief, but she also neglected to see the gift that God had placed in front of her, which was Ruth, right? So we're going to continue. We're going to get like a change here in character, right? So the main character at this point is no longer going to be Naomi. Check it out. Ruth takes over, but not like in some arrogant, crazy way. No, Ruth is like, whew, Ruth is powerful. You're going to see. She's a silent kind of power though. She's a quiet, like subtle power that just fiercely changes the atmosphere. She's an atmosphere changer, Ruth. I love Ruth. Anyways, okay, chapter 2. We're going to keep going. Chapter 2. We're doing so good, you all. Chapter 2. My subtitle here for chapter 2 of Ruth says Ruth gleans in Boaz's field. I'll explain to you in a little bit what that means, gleans. So here we go. Chapter 2, verse 1. Now, Naomi had a relative on her husband's side from the clan of Elimelech, a man of standing whose name was Boaz. So we don't know exactly who this is. Okay, we don't know exactly who Boaz is, but what they are telling us is that it's a relative on on the Elimelech side, Naomi's husband, the one that died. There's a distant relative, and his name is Boaz. Okay. This is going to play out later. So just like keep this on the back burner right now. Just put it on like a low simmering, like a broil. All right. Here we go. Naomi had a relative on her husband's side named Boaz from the clan of Elimelech. All right. And he was a man of standing. This, again, this is all giving you some key little details here. This, in other words, he's a good man. This is a good man. It's a quality man. Okay. Probably tall, dark, handsome. Anyways, let's go on. Verse 2. And Ruth, the Moabitess, said to Naomi, let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor. So check this out. Back in the day, they would do this thing called gleaning. Okay. Gleaning was essentially something that was built in as almost like a welfare system for the community. All right. It was essentially what would happen is when they were picking the fields, right? Like when they were picking the fields and harvesting, usually stuff falls to the side, right? Like just a little bit of the grain, a little bit of the harvest, whatever the field is producing, right? It would fall to the side. Gleaning is part of the welfare system where then people that had no other means, that didn't have their own fields, that didn't even work in the fields, couldn't even get a job in the fields, they could go and they could glean the fields, which meant that they could have that leftover stuff that was falling off to the side, right? So it was almost understood like, oh, you guys are here to pick this field. Okay, that's fine. Like, you're going to pick the field, but we're going to let people glean off of it. So make sure that if there's anything that just falls off to the side, that's okay. Don't pick it up also. Don't clean it out, in other words, because we want to let the widowless, the poor, basically the bottom of the totem pole people, the people that had nothing else to rely on, we want to allow them to come in and glean the field. That's what it means to glean, right? And so oftentimes, in fact, you'll hear a minister say something like, let's glean, like from for the word of God, which I just think is so beautiful because it implies approaching God's word with such with a humble attitude. Like, you know what? Okay, I'm not good enough to where, like, maybe I'm not always going to get the best like that I can get, but right now I'll just take any crumbs like that I can get, basically. Like the woman from Matthew chapter 15, the woman that tells Jesus, like, it's fine if you call me a dog, like even the dogs eat crumbs off of their master's table. So beautiful, you guys. I know you're probably like, what? Like, look it up. Matthew chapter 15. I don't remember the verse. I think it's verse 15 too. I don't know. But anyway, so pretty. Just look up dog, woman, Jesus. That'll get you there. Trust me. Just Google it. It's so good. It's so good, those verses. Oh, it gets me every time. Makes me want to cry just thinking about it. Anyways, okay. So she's being humble, Ruth, right? And she's telling Naomi, because Naomi's depressed. Like, she's just like, probably, I imagine her like just hauled up in her room, like on the bed, just like surrounded by like Ben and Jerry's ice cream and like Takis, and just like stuffing her face while she's like watching daytime TV. She's just depressed. She's wallowing. But Ruth is like, dude, we gotta eat. Like, we gotta, what are we going to do? Like, we can't just like not do anything. We got to move on. And so she says, let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor. So she's humble, which is beautiful. Naomi said to her, go ahead, my daughter. Verse 3. So she went out and began to glean in the fields behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she found herself working in a field belonging to Boaz. That's right. Who was from the clan of Elimelech. They mention it again. You're probably like, what? Like, why is that interesting? Trust me, it's going to be interesting. From the clan of Elimelech. Okay. I like this because I think when you're humble, God will show you favor. You'll happen into the blessings that you did not aim for. You'll think, oh, this isn't going to amount to much. Let me just stay humble, though. Let me just put my head down and work. And in fact, that's one of the lessons that I think we can gather from Ruth chapter 2 is just put your head down and get to work. Like, who cares? Like, just do the work. Like, that's what I always tell the kids. Like, just mind your business and do your work. Like, let's just move on. Like, don't worry about it. Don't get all worked up in the drama. I'm always telling them, right? You'll happen into the blessings if you stay humble, if you keep your head down and just keep working. All right. So sometimes you just got to show up. That's what my husband used to always say. He'd always say, the hardest part is just showing up. And he's right. There's never been more true words like spoken to me. The hardest part for anything is showing up. After that, I don't know what happens most of the time as a pretty like normal adult. Most of the time, as soon as you show up, like you'll just do it, right? Like, whatever needs to happen, doesn't matter what it is. But the hardest part is showing up. Like, literally, that's the hardest part. It's crazy. Anyways, verse 4. Just then, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. The Lord be with you. Oh, Boaz is such a sweetheart, right? I'm already like, wow, Boaz, you got to get yourself a Boaz. The Lord bless you, they called back. Oh, even his workers seem like pretty good men, right? This might be where you guys need to go. Like, go to the fields, ladies, if you're single and looking. Apparently, that's where you might be able to find your Boaz. right? So the Lord bless you, the coworkers called back to him. They all seem like such good workers. Like, so imagine a boss like Boaz and then like, the Lord be with you. I wish my principals would say that to me. The Lord be with you, Dr. Medrano. And then I'd be like, the Lord bless you, ma'am. Thank you. Right? Anyways, verse 5. Boaz asked the foreman of his harvesters, whose young woman is that? Verse 6. The foreman replied, she is the Moabitess who came back from Moab with Naomi. You know Naomi, you remember, right? Verse 7. She said, please let me glean. So the foreman is explaining to Boaz who it is, because Boaz is asking, which is always a good sign, ladies. Boaz is asking, who's that? Like, tell me a little bit about her, right? Verse 7, the foreman is telling Boaz a little bit about her. He's saying, oh, she's the she came back with Naomi from Moab. She actually asked me to let her glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters. She went into the field and has worked steadily from morning till now, except for maybe a short rest in the shelter. So he's putting out, I mean, this foreman's doing God's work here. He's like setting up, he doesn't know it, but he's setting up something great. And so he's telling Boaz, hey, like she came back with Naomi. She's been working all day. She's only taken a quick break, like, quick lunch break just to feed herself really fast. But she has been working here all day. She's been gleaning. It's implied like this is a good woman, like a hard work ethic. Right. And so I think this is really important, this moment where any information could be passed around about someone, but I think it's important that we again proclaim the good things. We focus on the good things about the people, that are closest to us so that we don't give off the wrong impression. But also, even if in the natural we're not seeing what we want from people, not even what we want, but even if in the natural we're seeing things that we know are not of God, it's important that you don't proclaim those out loud. Don't then go and tell other people, oh, my wife behaves like this, or yeah, my wife goes to church, but she also like smokes, every day, or she is like super obsessed with reality TV or keeping up with the Kardashians, or so don't get any ideas about my wife. Like she's not the greatest. Just because you're not seeing things in the natural doesn't mean that in the spiritual that you can't grab a hold of God's promises over the people around you. So it's important that you speak positively about people, whether or not you're seeing those things in the natural realm, right? And here it just so happens that she is amazing. And so he's literally just speaking what he's seen in the natural. He's able to speak the truth and he's able to speak it honestly. Before we continue, I wanted to actually just talk briefly. I have some extra points here that I wanted to make about these first several verses. So, when we talk about what we've learned so far, what we see so far that stands out to us from chapter 2 specifically, it seems like Ruth makes a proactive decision to work to find favor and finds herself working in Boaz's field. This is what we call divine providence, right? This leads Ruth to Boaz's field specifically. She could have ended up at anyone's field, but she ends up at Boaz's field. That's not coincidence. In fact, I don't know if I coined this term, but I believe in something called God incidence, which basically is just, I think it's little reminders or little confirmations that God sends you that you are exactly where you're supposed to be in that moment. Anyways, so here we are seeing that Ruth is incredible when it comes to taking initiative. She's in a foreign land, she's never been there before. She doesn't know anyone except for Naomi, who is in a severe depressive state, right? And instead of waiting for good fortune or depending on Naomi, she takes initiative and gets to work immediately, like we talked about earlier. This is what makes her, I believe, so attractive. It makes it really easy for Boaz to have some natural curiosity about her, but also for the foreman then to speak so highly of her, right? And so Boaz, a godly man, he takes note of someone like Ruth and recognizes, her incredible work ethic. And he becomes curious about this devoted worker that he sees. And again, I imagine that she is beautiful. But it's so crazy to me that, you know, these group of men here, because I imagine he's asking the foreman of the harvesters. So I feel like there could be like a small group of men talking here. And it's interesting that he becomes curious enough to ask about her, and that these two men at least, but maybe more, are discussing Ruth's attractiveness. And there's no mention of her looks so far. We don't know if she's necessarily beautiful. I think she is beautiful. I'd imagine that she was, but these men are impressed by her work ethic, and that's what the foreman chooses to focus um his description of her on, is her work ethic and her devotion to Naomi. Like, it's small enough of a community that they know Naomi's story probably. They know that Naomi, you know, recently lost her husband and her two sons. And so they must know, like, wow, this is showing a lot of initiative that this woman who is still young and could have stayed back in Moab, instead chose to be loyal to Naomi and to live life out with her, right? So I think that that's really interesting. It's just really sweet to me, and it's different. It's not something you see every day. As a woman, I refuse to buy into the lie that all men are sex obsessed, and that, oh, like, men just get together and check out other women or talk about other women or whatever, and that they base all their attraction to women on sexual attraction. Men get such a bad rep sometimes, but men are meant to be the head of the homes that, as women, we nurture and love. And we should not stand idly by as our generation of women, and I think it is our generation and the ones after us, become men haters and decide that men are useless or unnecessary. That is not God's design for life. God's design is Boaz and Ruth, or um, God's design is not Ruth and Rosemary or Ruth alone. That's not God's design for life. So, how do we counter a culture that talks down to men, that boasts being a feminist, that depicts men as lustful baboons, whom are unable to stay faithful and protect their families? Well, we can take a note here from Boaz and from the foreman. They're doing it right now. They're proclaiming the good that they see in Ruth. It's possible that she had psoriasis, or, had small hips for childbearing, or had, I don't know, like a lazy eye, or I don't know, whatever. But they're not stuck on those things. They're vocalizing what she does have that distinguishes her as a godly woman. We need to do this with our husbands and wives. They're not perfect as is, but your let's not talk about that with ourselves or other people. Don't complain out loud at all about your wife or your husband. Don't air out your dirty laundry to other people about how, she stepped out on you 4 years ago, or how she doesn't know how to cook, or how, she's obsessed with keeping up with the Kardashians. Or don't speak those things out loud. Don't complain about your husband and how he doesn't read his Bible or lead you in prayer, or how he doesn't go to church all the time. That's how you show the devil, because remember, the devil can hear you. That's how you show him that he's losing. That's how you fight in the spirit, is by ignoring what's in the natural. That's how we turn a culture around. That's how we shift atmospheres. you know you show the devil that he's losing, and that no matter what we experience in the natural, we're going to stay in alignment with God's words and God's promises and with God's will, right? The things that are in the book of destiny for your husband, for your wife, for yourself, right? You want to stay in alignment with those things. And God did not plan out your husband or your wife's life to end with her in sin or end with him lost. So We don't speak about those things. We don't speak them out loud. We try our best to counter them by remembering and holding on to God's promises, right? So here Ruth's task is like pretty menial. It's pretty tiring. It's pretty, I don't know, it could even be considered degrading, right? But she did it faithfully regardless. And that's what Boaz notices. That's what the foreman notices. That's what everyone around her notices. That's what we notice, is that she's faithful in the small things, right? Sometimes the task at hand is all you can do. All you can do is whatever God has assigned you right now, even though it's not something major. And you should do it well. Even if it is a small task, you do it well, right? For God's glory. So it could be a test of character for you that could open up new doors of opportunity later in the future, right? So it's important that she does this to the best of her ability, which she absolutely is. Let's continue. Verse 8. So Boaz said to Ruth, so he goes to Ruth now, right? And he says, my daughter, listen to me. My daughter was just an expression of affection. He wasn't saying, he wasn't trying to compare her to a daughter relationship or anything like that. It didn't mean anything like that. So Boaz said to Ruth, verse 8, my daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with my servant girls. Verse 9, watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the girls. I have told the men not to touch you. Okay. And whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled. Verse 10, at this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She exclaimed, why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner? Right? So, up until this point, we're seeing like, wow. So, Boaz asserts that because of Ruth's reputation for being hardworking, for being loving, for being kind and faithful to Naomi, and for being, basically for working hard like in front of him, she should stay in his field and not he doesn't want her working anywhere else. He's saying like I see you. Basically, he's coming to her and saying I see you. And he shows her favor. Boaz shows her favor by giving her special privileges such as sharing his water with her and protecting her from the other workers. He's already showing signs of, husband, like husband vibes. He's giving husband vibes right now. And so let's keep going. Verse 11, right? So she just finished off by saying like, hey, like why me? Like, why are you noticing me? Check this out. Verse 11, Boaz replied, I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland of Moab and came to live with a people you did not know before. Verse 12, may the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Okay, verse 13. Let's keep going. May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord, she responds. Let's stop there, actually. Let's go back a little bit. So Boaz tells her he sees her, and she's like, wait, what? Like, why did you even notice me? He's saying you know, your reputation precedes you. Like, everyone knows about you, Ruth. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's hard not to notice someone like you. She's different. She stands out in character. Again, I'm sure she was beautiful, but she stands out to him in character. And so your reputation is important. It's formed by the people who watch you. And you need to remember that, people that watch you at work, people that watch you in town, people that watch you at home, your children, your spouse, your parents, your grandparents, right? These people form your reputation. People that watch you at church, you know, this is what helps to form, well, who is Crystal really? Because behind closed doors, people get away with a lot of stuff and they do a lot of stuff that they shouldn't be doing. And it's hard to know those things, but all together, people see different sides of you, and that becomes okay, this, I'm getting a sense of who she is, right? And Ruth is amazing, right? She's a woman of amazing character. So I would implore you to be thinking, like, think about the people that are closest to you. You know, your husband, your wife, your kids, your best friends, your boss, maybe, right? Your parents. What would those closest to you say are your strengths, your weaknesses? You know, what are the three main qualities that make up your character? How would they describe you? You know, how quickly do you lash out? How consistent are you? Do you follow through with your word? How joyful are you? Do you, you know, bring peace to people around you, or do you bring chaos? You know, those are things that you've got to be thinking about. All right. We'll keep going here. I want to read verse 13 now. May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord, she said. You have given me comfort and have spoken kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servant girls. Okay, so she's responding to him after all the things that the special privileges that he's bestowing upon her, right? She's responding to him saying, I do not have the standing of one of your servant girls, but i'm I'm so glad that you've given me your favor, right? And she refers to him as my lord, but that's not, she's not, it's more like master, you know, like he's, because it's his field, right? It's just an expression of respect for the person in authority over her, right? Because he is technically in authority over her. He's essentially now made himself kind of her boss, saying like, you're gonna stay here in my fields, right? And then verse 14, at mealtime Boaz said to her, come over here, have some bread and dip it in the wine vinegar. So now he's like, oh no, don't eat in the, you know, teacher's lounge. Come over here and eat in the principal's office with me. Like, come over here, come to the front, see how I eat, and come eat with me. He's inviting her into his space to eat. So he's taking, I mean, he's really trying to, I'll use the term the kids use, he's trying to raise her up here. He's like really taking a liking to her, and he's really trying to show her what he has to offer, I think. So I want to read verse 14 again, and then we'll keep going a little bit. Verse 14 of chapter 2 says, at mealtime, Boaz said to her, come over here, have some bread and dip in it the wine vinegar. So he's trying to show her what he can offer her. When she sat down with the harvesters, he offered her some roasted grain. She, hold on, page turned. She ate all she wanted and had some left over. As she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his men. Even if she gathers among the sheaves, don't embarrass her. Rather, pull out some stalks for her from the bundles and leave them for her to pick up, and don't rebuke her. So he's giving his men very specific instructions about how to handle her. He's protecting her, really. He's trying to show, I think Boaz is trying to show that he's a virtuous man, and he's trying to show what he would do for her as a husband, you know, which is the way dating and courting should be. Like, it should be a practice for how am I going to treat you once we actually get married. And so Boaz is showing that he can provide for her easy. He's showing that he's going to protect her, and that's an important thing to look for in a man, right? In a partner. As a woman looking for a man, you need to ask yourself, can this man protect me? Not just can he provide for me, but is he going to have my best interest at heart, truly? You know, because I think a lot of men that can provide for you also don't necessarily put you first. You know, they don't know necessarily how to do that because they usually tend to be obsessed with money a little bit. So, yeah, he can provide for you, but can he protect you? The feminist movement has done a disservice, you know, by emasculating men and then telling us, telling them to treat women like they would treat themselves, basically, you know? But you trust, I mean, any man will tell you this more than likely, but you do not want men to treat you like other men. Like that's not the way that God designed it to be. Women need to be treated with tenderness, with respect, with honor, with gentleness and kindness and love. When men treat women like other men, you've basically emasculated women, which, that's not good either. And Jesus uses a similar metaphor to describe his desire to protect Jerusalem. I have this in my notes here. Jesus uses a similar metaphor to describe his desire to protect Jerusalem in Matthew chapter 23, verse 37. Look, he's going to sound like Boaz. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. This honestly, right now, like reading this, it makes me think of like all the LGBTQ community that is perversing God's design for relationships, for covenant between two people. And I feel like Jesus could be just as well talking to our culture today in that way, saying, I want to do this with you all. I want to protect you all, but you're not willing. You're not willing to follow the design that my father put into place, right? You're not willing to listen, basically. And so Ruth humbly and genuinely is confused about the favor that Boaz shows her, but she's still grateful, right? And he invites her to eat with his workers and personally gives her roasted grain, right? And then he goes out of his way to protect her, right? And he's saying, I want you to let some of the already gathered barley fall out for her. So he's almost making sure that the gleaning that she's going to do, remember we talked about that earlier, he's making sure that that gleaning is going to have a massive impact for her, that she's going to get a lot. So he's saying like, oh, like gather some for her already, right? And then verses 17 through 18, let's read that real quick. So Ruth gleaned in the field until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to about an ephah. She carried it back, verse 18. She carried it back to town, and her mother in law saw how much she had gathered. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over from the lunch that she had with Boaz and his workers, what she had left over after she had eaten enough. So she ate her fill. You have to imagine that they must not have been eating very well. She might have been a little malnourished, right? So she had her fill. She brought those leftovers home for her mother in law. She's faithful. Her mother in law, verse 19, asked her, where did you glean today? Right? She's probably like, what the heck? Like, where'd you get all this from? Where did you glean today? Where did you work? Blessed be the man who took notice of you. So she knows, obviously, there was no woman field owners back then. So it had to have been a man. So she's like, wow, like, blessed be that man. Like, yes, thank you, God, for that man. Bless him, please, because somebody helped us out here. Right. And so we're seeing here that Ruth didn't just take advantage of Boaz's kindness, but worked hard into the evening. She could have just like taken the opportunity that he gave her and said, oh, you like me? Like, really? Like, can you just like give me some free food then? No, she still worked afterwards. She gleaned in the field until evening, it says. So she still put herself to work and like kept her head down. Again, she's just showing her character, that she has a strong work ethic. And so she didn't take advantage of him. She worked hard. She gathered a lot of barley and gave her leftovers to Naomi, right? And then an ephah, just so you get like an idea here, it says that that's how much she had left over. That she threshed the barley, not how much she had left over. This is the gleaning from the field outcome. After she was done working, she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to about an ephah. Ephah. Oh, that one's hard. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I want to say epath, but I don't know. It's Ephah. Epath. Yeah, I think I don't know. Seems like it would be epha. Epha. Anyways, how much is that? An epha is 10 days worth of food. So she brought home more than a week's worth of food. So that's why when she comes up to Naomi with all this food, Naomi's like, "What the heck? Like, where did you work? Like, who gave you all of this food? This is crazy." Right? So it's a lot. It's a lot. Let's keep going. Verse 19 and 20. We already read verse 19. Well, we read half of it. Let's blessed be the man who took notice of you. That's Naomi. Keep going. Then Ruth told her mother in law about the one at whose place she had been working. The name of the man I worked with today is Boaz. This is some girl chat stuff, right? Oh, his name was Boaz, mom, right? That's what probably she said. Verse 20. The Lord bless him, Naomi said to her daughter-in-law. This might be the first time that Naomi's starting to perk up again. Like, wow, like someone really blessed her. Verse 20, the Lord bless him, Naomi said to her daughter in law. He has not stopped showing his kindness to the living and the dead, she added. That man is our close relative. He is one of our kinsmen redeemers. Check this out really quick. Kinsman redeemer. He is one of their kinsman redeemers. This is what Naomi is telling Ruth about Boaz. Boaz is one of their kinsman redeemers. This is what a kinsman redeemer is. It's the closest male blood relative willingly that takes back possession of something or someone and pays off the debt at his own expense, but then he is covering, he is offering them the covering for that person or for that thing, depending on if it's like, it could be a property that he's the kinsman redeemer for a property, or it could be a person. In this case, he's part, we found this out at the beginning, he's part of the Elimelech clan, right? Her late husband, Naomi's late husband. And so technically he's related to, of course, also Naomi's sons. So he's a close male blood relative that if he wants Boaz, this is civil law back then. If he wanted to, because he's a close male blood relative, he's the closest one, he could take back possession of Naomi and anyone else he so chooses, and he can pay off their debt at his own expense. And then he is responsible. He's basically claiming, he would then be claiming Naomi and, in this case, Ruth, right? So he'd be claiming that whole family. So this is like new information, of course, like to Ruth. Ruth did not know this, right? She's in a foreign town. She doesn't know. She doesn't know like the history, the familial history of of not her ex-husband, sorry, of her late husband and of her late father-in-law. She doesn't know the historical context, right? So verse 21, then Ruth the Moabitess said, he even said to me, stay with my workers until they finish harvesting all my grain. So she's just like going on. She doesn't really have a reaction necessarily to the kinsman redeemers thing, like, but then she just says, I think she's trying to imply like, mom, he really likes me, like, because he then even said to me, stay with my workers until they finish harvesting all my grain. Like, he wants to be around me, like he wants me there near him. Verse 22, Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it will be good for you, my daughter, to go with his girls, because in someone else's field you might be harmed. Verse 23, so Ruth stayed close to the servant girls of Boaz to glean until the barley and wheat harvests were finished, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Let me talk to you a little bit about this last little section. So Ruth tells Naomi of her newfound favor with Boaz, and Naomi encourages this relationship, right? Like a good mother-in-law should. Naomi identifies Boaz as a close relative. This was known as a, I think the pronunciation is Goel, a kinsman redeemer, right? That's the Hebrew for a kinsman redeemer. Goel, Goel, like Joel, but with a G. Goel. Again, this is someone who has the power to redeem them, because remember, they're in a really like like the lowest economic situation they can be in. They have no value as women right now because they have no men to claim them. But not just anyone could claim you. Anyone could claim her, because anyone could offer to to marry her, right? If she wanted to, right? Ruth. But no one can claim Naomi. Like, Naomi's in a tough situation. So she advises Ruth to stay with Boaz's female servants, with his girls, and glean from his field till the end of the barley and wheat harvest, basically for that like little short season. She's like, girl, you should keep this job as long as possible and stay around this guy because this could be our meal ticket. Like Naomi recognizes, she perks up. She's like, the wheels are turning again. Maybe she's like starting to regret calling herself Mara, even, right? And then Ruth and Boaz's encounter is more than just coincidence. We're starting to see here that it's the God incidents that I was talking about earlier. As you go about your daily tasks, I believe that God is working in your life in ways you may not even notice. We we cannot close the door on what God can do. Just because we don't understand it here doesn't mean that He can't do it. We should always have faith that God is directing our lives for His purpose and for His glory. So it's really, really important that we keep our eyes on God, that we keep working no matter how small or menial or trivial the task seems, that we keep working, right? And also that we just try to be a blessing, to the people around us. I'm going to stop here today. I want to end off with just like a little bit of a reflection moment, thinking about some of the things that we pulled from these first two chapters. I would really encourage you to finish. There's only two other chapters, you guys. Ruth is only four chapters altogether. It's not at all a long book. So I would really encourage you guys to read it because it's a beautiful, beautiful love story. And again, it's King David's great grandparents. It's their love story. And King David's lineage goes into Jesus Christ eventually, right? So it's really special. All right. But just for like some reflection, when we're thinking about Ruth and Naomi, we see a contrast of how you can handle a situation, right? And I was talking earlier about the tricky part about facing backwards and like looking at the past is that then you don't have the ability to see what's right in front of you and get excited about that. So here's like a little, almost like a little homework assignment that I would impress upon you. Come up with a list of 10 things, and it cannot be generic things, like it can't be family, friends. I want you to be as specific as you can. In fact, here's what we'll do: come up with 10 things, and I want you to write one sentence for each thing. Something that God is putting right in front of you right now, like today, tomorrow, something that God is putting right in front of you right now that you can be excited about, that you should be excited about, is probably a better way to say it. 10 things, okay? And again, it cannot be like, oh, my daughter, my son. I want you to write a specific sentence that is showing gratitude for that thing. In fact, I want you to start each sentence, each of those 10 sentences, those 10 things. I want you to start it with, God, thank you for, and then I want you to finish the sentence. And I want you to focus your energy on getting excited about those things. I mean, I told you I want them to be things that you are excited about, things that you could be grateful for that are happening right now that get you excited. They get you excited about life. They get you excited about tomorrow, but something right now that you know God has for you in this moment. Okay, 10 things. That's a lot. I know that's tricky. It's a lot of stuff, but you can do it. I believe in you. I'm going to do it too, and I'll post mine. All right, but that's all I've got as far as Ruth. You guys, please finish Ruth. Ruth is amazing. I can't speak highly enough of this book. Their love story is so beautiful. Ruth is so obedient, and Boaz and Ruth together, it's just there's so much respect. And I think that's what to me is so attractive about this love story is that you can I feel like the respect is radiating like out of the scripture. There's so much respect between the two of them in so many ways. In chapter 3, you see it a lot because of the way that they handle their, I'm going to say like courting, basically, the way they handle that. You'll see that there's so much respect between the two of them. They're very concerned for each other all the time, which I love. Like, his natural inclination is to protect her reputation, and so is hers. Like, that's their number one priority, and I think those are great attributes in a husband or a wife, is someone that's trying to protect your reputation, that's trying to protect you, you know. But anyways, the real great part is the ending, where you see that Boaz, of course, marries Ruth, you can imagine, and they have a son, and that son, they show in the last chapter, in chapter 4 of Ruth, they show the genealogy from Boaz and Ruth, from their son down to all the way Jesus Christ, basically, right? Because it goes to King David. They show that genealogy, but then King David leads to Jesus Christ. So it's so interesting, you all. Very Pride and Prejudice, watch Pride and Prejudice and then go read Ruth, and you'll see it's so good. So good. Wait, should I close out like the way I usually do? I don't remember what I always say. Let me see. Anyways, that's all the time that we have for today. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, and of course, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And don't be a stranger, leave a comment. Until then, until next time, I think that's what I always say. Until next time, don't forget to pick up your Bible.